common sense for the American people. Scott Jennings is here on Salem. Really excited for my next conversation. One of the bright rising stars of the conservative movement, United States Senator Bernie Moreno of the state of Ohio, joins us. Senator Moreno, thanks for being here and coming back to the show. I've got to start, however, with a clip of you. Last week, you had Keith Ellison, the Attorney General of Minnesota, in one of these hearings, and it was wild, absolute fire. Let's listen to this, and we'll get your reaction to how all that went down. Bernie Moreno takes on Keith Ellison, cut number 9.
To the country illegally, or you overstay a visa, should you be deported?
My simple answer is, sir, it depends.
Okay, so if somebody breaks into your home, should they be arrested for breaking and entering, or does it depend?
It's an entirely different scenario.
How's that?
Because immigration is essentially a civil, and the breaking into my home is a criminal matter.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So if there's laws that should be enforced, so we shouldn't enforce civil violations?
We absolutely should enforce them.
But you just said that it's a civil matter, so it's different. So if somebody
you enforce civil matters.
So if somebody commits a civil infraction, it shouldn't be enforced?
It should be.
Okay, so they should be deported.
No, they should have due process that is associated with their petition. So,
again,
for example,
so the act of entering the country illegally, you think we should say, well, did you really do it or not do it? It's pretty obvious that they did, right?
Well, I mean, it would depend on the facts of the situation, and then they might say,
I just gave you the facts.
Senator Moreno, when you look back on that hearing, do you ever ask yourself, why can't Democrats just answer a simple question? I mean, should we deport people who are in the country illegally? Well, it depends. Can men get pregnant? Well, it depends. You know, it doesn't. Every question is an it depends with Democrats. What's going on with these Democrats, Bernie? Unbelievable.
Well, what's unbelievable is that guy is the chief law enforcement officer of the state of Minnesota. And by the way, it is actually a criminal offense to enter this country illegally. It's a civil offense to overstay your visa. I wanted to get there with him, but, you know, this guy, at the end of the day, Scott, what he believes is that we should have open borders, that it's America's responsibility to take care of the entire world. And you know what? If working Americans have to suffer as a result of lower wages and higher taxes to support illegal migrants, as long as it keeps them in power as they want. They just can't say that out loud. Instead, what they talk about is tactics. Oh, we don't like the tactics of ICE. That's just blatantly false. They don't like the fact that ICE is deporting the millions of people that they let into this country illegally during the Biden administration. They worked really hard, Scott, to get these tens of millions of people here illegally. They're really pissed off that we're now deporting them. That's the actual issue.
And when you hear Ellison and other Democrats espouse these views, understand these are not outlier views. These are not fringe radical views. This is the mainstream Democratic viewpoint. There really is no, I guess maybe Fetterman, your colleague John Fetterman of Pennsylvania. Other than that, there really isn't a Democrat in this country right now who is doing anything other than doing exactly what Ellison was doing right there, obfuscating, lying, talking around the issues. It's incredible how far left the Democratic Party has moved on this from just even, say, Obama's time in office when they deported millions.
Well, absolutely, because at the end of the day, if they actually said what they believe, Americans reject them soundly, because no normal American thinks that we should have an open border. Most normal Americans think we should be a sovereign country. These are basic facts. And by the way, most legal immigrants like myself believe that you should follow the process, you should follow the rules, and that we should stop rewarding people who broke the rules. These are just common sense. These are not Republican ideas. This is just normal American thoughts. They can't say that, so instead they lie, they pivot, they obfuscate. As you know, because you have to deal with this as well on your end, this is what they're good at.
Let's connect this to something going on in the Senate, and that is the partial government shutdown related to funding for the Department of Homeland Security. Once again, Democrats have voted to shut down, this time, part of our federal government. They're mad about ICE enforcing existing immigration law in this country. What do you think is going to happen next? By the way, it's crazy. ICE is already funded, so all they're really doing here is shutting down things that have to do with, say, TSA, the Coast Guard. other parts of DHS. They're not really having any impact on ICE, but yet they've done it nonetheless. Where are we headed on the shutdown on DHS?
Well, sadly, I don't think we're going to make much progress because this is purely political theater. So you can't negotiate through political theater. Look, at the end of the day, you just said it. ICE and Border Patrol is fully funded through 2029. We did that in the Working Families Tax Cut bill last summer. So what they've actually shut down, Americans should know, is FEMA. They shut down the Coast Guard. They shut down the Cybersecurity Agency. They've shut down Secret Service, and they shut down TSA. And in fact, these Democrats walked right by those TSA agents that they themselves just took their paycheck away when they got on an airplane at taxpayer expense to go to Munich to badmouth America and be really bad at geography in the case of AOC. That's exactly what's going on. So how do we get to a resolution? I really don't know because it's in their court to decide. But here's the ultimate irony, Scott, and you know this. The continuing resolution that they passed for 2 weeks was their idea for 2 weeks. It wasn't ours. It actually funded ICE and Border Patrol at a higher level than what we wanted to fund it in the appropriations bill. And our bill included body cameras, which they're demanding. Well, if they had passed our appropriations bill, they would have gotten the body cameras. It asked for more training. If they had passed our appropriation bill, there'd be more training. So these are just, it's total irony. It's sick irony. They're trying to placate the Mandami wing of their base because they're all deathly afraid at the end of the day of some lunatic primary opponent. And that's who runs the Democrat Party today. It's not run like the Democrat Party when you and I were kids. It's a totally different party.
Yeah, a lot of the things they're asking for in so-called reforms of ICE would have the impact of really tying the hands of immigration enforcement here. I mean, they want to grind illegal immigration, deportations, and they want to grind immigration enforcement in general to a halt. So is it your belief that the Republicans are going to be able to stay unified here on this? Because I think giving an inch on this would send a terrible signal. I mean, it's amazing. All the administration is doing is enforcing immigration law that has been on the books for years.
We're not going to refuse to honor our laws. This is what the Republican Party is centered on. We're the party of law and order. They're the party of lawlessness. At the end of the day, it's illegal to enter this country without proper means. It's illegal to overstay your visa. The people who did that need to be deported, period. Now, how we get there and who we get there first and versus second and third, we can have that conversation. But here's what we're not going to do. We're not going to move to judicial warrants instead of administrative warrants because that would take us 1,000,000 years to deport the people that came into this country. It's totally abject insanity. And by the way, Obama didn't have to do that. Clinton didn't have to do that. Here's what we're also not going to do. We're not going to have the agents put their lives at risk by being doxxed. So if they want the agents not to have masks, by the way, the agents don't want to have masks. If you remember, Scott, the Democrats were the ones that loved masks. Remember that 4 years ago? They were all masks before they were against masks. So we'll take masks off Border Patrol agents and ICE agents if we make it a federal crime with extreme penalties for doxing federal agents and putting their lives at risk, including elected leaders. In that same hearing, Scott, I had 79 sitting members of the House and the Senate that have called ICE Gestapo, secret police, thugs. This is people whose job it is to enforce our laws, by the way, from the body who created said laws. So think about how insane that is. So if they want to make it a federal crime where if a politician doxes an ICE agent who didn't have a mask on, who was identified, I'm all for taking off the mask, and I think the agents would agree with that. But until that happens, I'm all for making certain that these guys are safe. These are heroes that are doing God's work every day to keep our communities safe. You know what we should say? Thank you very much. That's what we should be saying to these agents.
So let's connect this to the other big talk of the Senate right now, and that is the Save America Act. It was recently announced that we now have 50 co-sponsors for the Save America Act. And, you know, we're only a couple away from getting everybody in the Senate Republican Conference on this. What's the future, in your opinion? Will the Save America Act be brought to the floor, and will it pass the U.S. Senate?
Well, let's make certain your listeners understand what we're talking about. It's something that is so basic, it's almost ridiculous. We're asking people when they register to vote for the very first time, that they prove they're a U.S. citizen. That's it. All they have to do is say, hey, look, I want to register to vote in this country, and I prove that you're eligible by proving citizenship. That bar is on the ground. That is a low, low bar. The second thing is when you actually vote later, after you've registered, you have to show that you are who you say you are, like you do at the airport, like when you do at the bank. I mean, you show your ID constantly, right? You don't leave your house without your wallet because it has your driver's license. This is not a low lift. What's amazing to me is they frame this as a racist conversation. As somebody who's Hispanic, I find it racist that they think I'm so incompetent that I'm incapable of getting a driver's license. Like something about my heritage makes me not be able to find the Department of Motor Vehicles, makes it not capable because I was Latin to be able to go find my birth certificate. And thank you, white savior, for helping me get through my incompetence. I mean, you talk about racism. That is the racism, that inherent low expectations, that because of your immutable characteristics, you're less of a human than they are. It is grotesque. So look, every Democrat, except for, say, Fetterman, will vote against having a voter ID when you go vote and proving that you're a U.S. citizen. Why? It goes right back to the beginning of the conversation, Scott. They brought tens of millions of people in this country because they know Americans are no longer with them, so they have to import voters from the third world to keep them in power. That's ultimately what this is about.
Do you think we're going to see changes to the filibuster here in order to do this? Obviously, Democrats are going to filibuster. They're digging in on the Jim Crow 2.0 talking points. It could be defeated with a little bit of change to the filibuster rules. What do you think?
Well, first of all, the Democrats, all who are serving today, all wanted to get rid of the filibuster. And let's be clear about this. They will 100% get rid of the filibuster if, heaven forbid, we lose the Senate. So let's just get that out of the way. It's over if the Democrats take office. In the Senate, the filibuster will no longer exist. Of course, today, it's a different story. All of them will vote to keep it. Unfortunately, on our end, there's at least 4, probably many more Republicans that will not vote to get rid of the filibuster. That's just the facts. So what we have to do is honor the tradition of the Senate. And if we have a rule that says every senator can talk twice during a legislative day, and then once that's exhausted, then we call the question. I think we have to look into that because, look, I think what we have to show the American people is that we're willing to fight for the basic things that they care about, Scott. If we don't show the American people that elected us with a landslide, with a mandate, November of 2024, that we're willing to do whatever it takes to fight to save this country, then they're not going to vote for us again. That's that simple. We have to show them with our actions, not our words, that we're going to fight to save this country. And this is so basic and so elementary. This is the time that we actually have to do this.
That voice you're hearing today, Senator Bernie Moreno of the great state of Ohio. Senator Moreno, thanks for always being generous with your time here on the Scott Jennings Show.
Anytime, Scott, and keep giving him heck.
You got it, brother. We fight them every day.